Hi, welcome back to Therapy Designs. If you're new to this channel, my name is Kelly, and this channel is all about teaching you how to create print-on-demand designs that sell. And be sure to stay tuned till the end of the video because I have another 5 bonus niches for you. All right, so in today's video, I want to talk about the dark side of print-on-demand. So I have listed out some of the most annoying challenges that I face in, daily print-on-demand dealings. If you are new to print on demand and you've heard all of the wonderful stories about it, that's great. There's some great, wonderful things, but you should also be aware of the frustrating things. And as a bonus, I am going to teach you guys how I deal with difficult customers or bad reviews. And so stay tuned. That will be towards the end. So the most annoying thing that you're going to find with print on demand is the lack of control. And there is lack of control all over the place. So I'm going to talk about some different areas and give some examples here. So the first area I want to talk about is quality control issues. When you do print on demand, assuming you're using a third-party print company, you don't have direct control over the quality of the items. Now, yes, it's a good idea to order samples of any items that you sell, but just because you order a sample and the sample is good, it doesn't mean that there won't be quality control issues along the way. And if you sell a lot of different products, it might not always be feasible to get samples of everything before you list it on your shop. One of the issues that I've had recently, which is kind of what prompted me to put this in here, is I sell button-up shirts on my Etsy shop, and they sell really well. And these button-up shirts have had several issues lately. The biggest one being that the holes for the buttons are smaller than the buttons. So I have had multiple people now tell me that they can't actually button the shirt because they can't fit the button through the hole. Now, obviously, this is a big quality control issue. Now, this shirt, I did, by the way, order samples of, like a couple years ago when I first started selling it. And the sample was fine. I was happy with it. It buttoned just fine, but every so often there will be quality control issues that you can't, obviously control. And now you have to deal with the customer service. You have to offer returns. You have to apologize. You have to go to the print company and, send them pictures and emails and, let them know that, hey, this is an issue. And what I'm facing now is, okay, will this issue continue? Because it's happened a few times now. If it's like a one-off, okay. If it happens like 2 or 3 times, now I'm like, wait a minute, I can't be risking continuing to sell this, but it's one of my bigger sellers. So right now I haven't decided, do I keep this product on my shop or do I just pull the product entirely? I don't necessarily want to pull it entirely because, like I said, it is a big seller. And if this is just like a one-off kind of a thing or a two-off, that's okay. But this has now happened at least 3 times in the last couple months. So I'm kind of on the fence, and I'll let you guys know what I decide on that. But that is one example of a quality control issue that you may encounter. Other ones have to do with, printing. Maybe the print isn't centered. I've had that happen before, or it was a bad quality print. Things like that. I sell the candles, and I had one person complain that the sticker on the candle wasn't, centered or on the candle properly. And so there's always going to be the occasional quality control thing that you can't always predict. Even if you have a sample, sometimes issues will happen and you'll have to deal with them. And because you're not the one directly printing it and you're not the one that's physically holding the product prior to shipping it, you won't always know until after the customer gets it if there's going to be an issue. So those are some of the things that you will have to deal with if you do print on demand. Now, another big issue that you guys are going to face is going to be shipping issues. So again, in terms of things you can't control, shipping times, shipments getting lost, shipments going to the wrong places, all of these things can and will happen. Last year, well, actually, I guess it was this year, but last Women's Day, so 2025 Women's Day, I had the biggest shipping disaster. So for Women's Day, typically sell to companies. And so they'll order in bulk for the whole company. So it's not unusual that I'll get an order of like 100 shirts. And so this happened. A company ordered like 100 shirts for Women's Day. And it was supposed to arrive, obviously, before Women's Day. Now, this was with Printify, by the way. The order went through, and for whatever reason, Printify was behind. It didn't fulfill it in time. It shipped it out late, and then the shipment was taking longer than it should have. Long story short, these shirts didn't get delivered until 2 days after Women's Day. Now, I can't believe that I didn't hear from the company. I thought, oh my God, I'm going to have to refund 100 shirts. Now, I never heard from them. I felt horrible. I don't know what happened, but I do know that that giant order did not get there until after Women's Day. And when you are ordering a shirt or any kind of product for a specific day, it better get there before said day. This is especially true around holidays where people want to order something for a holiday, or if they want to order something for a birthday. You're counting on those, estimated delivery dates to kind of say, do I think it's going to get there on time or not? And there are things that you can't control. Sometimes the print company just takes longer to actually produce the product and ship it out. Sometimes the shipments are late or delayed, and occasionally that can cause huge issues. One thing that happened recently that really annoyed me, that I kind of caught sort of in time, is somebody ordered a football, one of the custom-made footballs, and he wanted it in time for his kid's birthday, and it was going to be October 2nd. And so he put, can I get this done by October 2nd? And I look at this and I'm like, no way. I go and it's like, well, the production time was like 5 to 9 days, and then the shipment time was like another 10 to 15 days. There's no way it's going to get there by then. Why would he even think that? So I go to the listing page on Etsy, what the customer will actually see, and Etsy has it listed as an estimated delivery date by October 2nd to October 5th. And I'm like, I have no idea how they got that date and why they promised that time, because it's a time that I cannot deliver. So I go back to my, my personal listing, and I start looking, and it's like, sure enough, yes, I did put, it's going to take this long to produce it. I did put that the shipment is going to take this long, and still somehow Etsy overrode me and was, promising shipment times that there was no way I could, actually deliver on. And I messaged the guy and I let him know, and he was very nice about it and said it was worth waiting and to ship it anyways, because I offered to cancel the order for him. But that was an example of Etsy actually overrode my shipping times, because they just decided that they're going to take whatever your average production is and whatever average shipping times is, and they're going to make some sort of an estimate on when they think it's going to be sent out, and just totally overrode me. As it turns out, the destination from where it was shipping, they used that as a factor, and that was incorrect. And when I fixed it, it did correct it a little bit. But still, the fact that Etsy can override you is like, oh man, this is gonna mess with my metrics, right? Other shipping issues I've had are missing packages. Not patients, sorry. I'm a physical therapist, so I talk about patients all the time. Customers saying that they didn't receive their package. Sometimes if it's delivered to apartment buildings, they might have boxes that they leave it in, or they might send it back to the post office. I had one person say that it was never delivered, and when I went to check the tracking stuff, for whatever reason, the delivery service couldn't find that address. They said that address didn't exist, so they were sending it back. That address did exist. The person confirmed it and confirmed it again, but for whatever reason, the shipping company couldn't find that address and sent the package back. So you will always come up with all sorts of different shipping issues. So sometimes it is like a game of whack-a-mole, where you take care of one issue and another issue pops up. Again, I made this video because I had a lot of issues this week. So within the last week, I had just a ton of issues pop up, and I just had to share and rant. So that is what prompted this video. But yes, it can be like a game of whack-a-mole, where it's like literally you take care of one fire and then another fire pops up someplace else. And so between quality issues and shipping issues, it can be very frustrating, especially if you sell on Etsy, because if you're a star seller, there's 3 metrics that they look at, And really only one of them is in your control, and that is your response to messages. You have to respond to messages within 24 hours. Well, I can do that. That's in my control. But the other things are going to be the reviews, which will have to do with the quality of the item, and you can't always control the reviews. And then, of course, the shipments. Are you on time with your shipping? Well, it's hard to be on time with your shipping if Etsy's overriding your shipping or if the print company is taking too long to fulfill. So that is very frustrating. Okay. Moving on. So another issue that I faced literally just this week had to do with the products themselves. So for example, skateboards. I've done videos on skateboards. Matter of fact, I just did a pretty recent video on skateboard wall art. I sell it on my Etsy shop from Print KK. And sure enough, right after I did the video, by the way, like 2 days later, Print KK removed skateboards from their products. So they no longer sell skateboards. Well, this is an issue because I've got lots of skateboard listings up on my shop. And so if somebody was to have ordered one of those, I wouldn't have been able to fulfill it anymore because it is no longer offered by the print company that I was using. And sometimes print companies are good about sending you emails. Other times it's just like buried in the message section. And if you don't check the messages every day on their platform, you might miss it. I had missed it. And then when I saw it, I was very surprised. And thank God I was able to take all of those down before somebody ordered and I couldn't fulfill. But that is a real bummer. So a lot of times print companies will have lots of products in their catalog. They'll try different products out and then they will remove certain products that either don't do well or they have stock issues or whatever. And if you're selling those, you may have to remove a lot of your listings and you may have taken a lot of time to create these listings and to promote these listings. And they've been on Etsy trying to gain traction and all of a sudden the product's no longer for sale. And so that's another issue that you may face. And so I did face that with the skateboards. That's a bummer because skateboards were one of those products that, I had high profit on and I had a bunch on my shop and now they're gone. So by the way, if you watched any of the skateboard videos, I'm very sorry. I will look to see if I can find any other print providers that do offer that. Right now, I don't know of any. Another issue that you may face is just out of stock items. So they don't always have the items in stock. Every so often somebody will order something and it's out of stock in that size or it's out of stock in that color. I've had that happen several times. I sell on Amazon Seller Central and I use Printful for that. And so some of the listings I put up may be older listings and somebody orders a shirt, like a polo shirt, and they don't have it in the right size in stock or they don't have the right color in stock. And then I have to deal with the customer and tell them, look, I can either cancel this order, I can give it to you in a different color maybe, I can try to substitute it out for a different polo shirt in the right color, but it's going to be a different product. And so sometimes you're just dealing with stock issues. And so again, back to the whack-a-mole thing, there are always things that pop up that you will need to obviously deal with. Another issue that you will face will be platform changes. So different print platforms or seller platforms, they are constantly changing their rules, changing their policies, changing their algorithms, making updates. And so things are constantly changing and you're having to stay on top of it. And some of these changes can be good and some of these changes can be terrible. I sell on Amazon through Amazon Merch, and they have gone through a lot of changes recently and not for the better. So originally, when I was selling, things were great. It's a tiered system. So you start on tier 10, and as you make sales, they tier you up. And for a while, they were tiering up relatively consistently. And so, if you got to whatever tier and you filled your slots and you made enough sales, you got tiered up. And as you got tiered up and you had more products, you made more money. And so you have this general assumption going that you're going to continue to build, and that's great. Well, then Amazon suddenly stopped tier ups. And I think a year went by where there were just like no tier ups, and everybody was like, what's going on? When's the next tier up? People are just kind of stagnant in their level. Well, then Amazon did something that I don't think anybody was expecting. They started tiering down. So for some of the people on the higher tiers, if they hadn't made enough sales or they hadn't filled all their slots, they actually like demoted them, dropped their tier levels. And that's one of the things that happened. And that was just like, oh my gosh, terrible. Another thing that they started doing was overriding the prices. So it used to be you could select your price. So if I wanted to sell a shirt for $19.99, the profit on that would be maybe like $5. I'm rounding here. Um, and that was great. But now they've started putting stuff on sale. And this is without telling you. They've just override the prices. They'll put it on sale. And so now maybe something you were originally selling for $19.99, they're now selling on sale for $16.99. And now when it sells, maybe you only get $1.50 in profit. So you were going from getting $5 in profit per sale down to like $1.50 per sale. And they can just override you. And so all of a sudden people are seeing both their sales and their profit per sales drop. And I got to tell you, last month I had the worst month on Amazon that I have had in probably the last 3 years. And so that was relatively alarming. Not super happy about that, but that is an example of how different platforms can change things on you. Amazon also started removing products. Now, once upon a time, many years ago, if you had a listing up long enough and it hadn't sold, they would remove it. Well, they had stopped doing that. So now, if you had a listing up, whether it was up for a year or two and it hadn't sold, it stayed up. The good thing about that is it gave it the opportunity to sell. And I had listings that maybe hadn't sold in a year or had never sold and suddenly started selling and started gaining momentum. And it just took a lot of time. Well, now they've started removing listings. So if they haven't sold in a year or so, they just remove them. And what that means is that you're constantly having to either re-put that listing back up if you want to have it back up, or you're, have less and less listings. So that's another thing that they've suddenly started doing. And so these are all just changes that happen that you don't really have any control over. And then, of course, with Amazon, they can always reject any of your listings for any given reason. And sometimes the reasons are, expected, and sometimes they're just absolutely ridiculous. And I have had videos, by the way, that I've done on Amazon's most infuriating rejections, and so that is on my channel. I don't want to get into that. Another thing that just happened recently, Printful, not Print, I put Printful, but actually I mean Printify. It was Printify, so ignore that. Printify has started removing some of the listings. Same thing, so if you had made a product listing on Printify and it hasn't sold in like a year or however long, they have started removing your listings. And again, the problem with that is they remove it off of Printify, but it doesn't automatically remove it off of Etsy. So now if that product sells on Etsy, there is no product on Printify to fulfill that sale. I did find this out the hard way just this week. So I had a shirt that sold, and I don't think it had sold before. It hadn't sold in a really long time. And I thought everything was fine. I wasn't really paying attention to it because normally this stuff is automated. It automatically takes care of itself. And then I was on Etsy and I noticed that it's saying that one of my orders is past due for shipping. And I'm like, damn it, right? So I go to Printify and I'm looking to see where it's at, if it's in production, if it's shipped out yet, what's going on. And I can't find the order. The order is nowhere to be found. The order never went through. So I'm like, what the heck? Then I start looking for the listing and I can't find that listing. I can't find it anywhere. I search for it. I go through everything. I cannot find the listing. It's as though it just vanished, right? So this is a problem. So now I've got this order on Etsy that's already past shipping date. And it's not even being fulfilled anywhere because it literally never went through. So I had to manually create the order, and obviously it's already late shipping, so it was late shipping out. So that's going to hurt my metrics. But that was an example of, oh crap, now I got to be on top of that too, because now they're starting to delete things, and that's something that they hadn't done before. That's another new thing. And then of course Etsy, well, they're always changing their rules. They've had their recent title changes where now they're They're recommending to change the title of your products for search visibility. They're always having, they have algorithm changes. They change their policies on AI and what you can sell. And so you feel like you're constantly having to be up to date on all of these changes on all of these platforms. And if you're like me and you sell on many platforms, it can be a lot to juggle. See, because I sell on Amazon via merch, I sell on Amazon through Seller Central. I sell on Etsy. And when I'm on Etsy, I'm integrated with Printful, with Printify, with PrintKK, with Guten, and with JetPrint. So these are a lot of different platforms that I'm juggling all at once, and any one of them can have changes at any time. And so that is just another really frustrating thing that you will deal with if you're dealing with print on demand or pretty much any kind of business. You're always kind of dealing with these issues as they pop up. Another issue that you're always going to deal with is stolen designs. It is a cutthroat world, and there are people out there that will steal your designs, like sometimes pixel for pixel. And I have definitely had this happen more times than I can count, and I don't even pay attention to them anymore because, again, like whack-a-mole, you could try to report it, especially like on Amazon. You could try to report it and get the other person's listing taken down. But as soon as you do that, you'll find that somebody else has copied another listing and another listing. And I decided that it was not worth my time trying to fight all of these, that it's just better that I just keep going, make more listings, keep putting stuff up. So I don't even bother paying attention or trying to fight stolen designs. I mean, I learned this very quickly, very early on. The first design I ever put up on Amazon, and I mean the very first one, somebody had copied that design within a week. And the first time it wasn't pixel for pixel, they had just copied the design. But there are definitely people out there that will copy things pixel for pixel, and you just got to kind of shake it off, try not to let it get to you. You will spend forever tracking people down to try to get things removed. It's not worth my time. But just know that there will be people out there that will try to steal your designs. The other side of that is obviously don't steal anybody else's designs. It's obviously wrong to begin with. And yes, there are people who have been sued over stealing other people's designs or using designs that aren't their own. There are platforms like Creative Fabrica where they say that designs are, have a license to be used for print on demand. I will always make changes to those. So I never take any of those designs and just put them up as is. People have done that and been sued, even though it said that it was okay for print on demand. As it turns out, it was not. So I always make changes. I do like Creative Fabrica, by the way. I do use it, and I do use a lot of the things on there. I just always make changes, find a way to make it my own. Just don't ever put it up exactly as is. And so that is my take right now on these stolen designs. And then a big issue in any business is going to be customer service and dealing with difficult customers. You will have difficult customers no matter what you do, and you're always going to have to deal with them. And so this is where I am going to get into some specific examples here. So first, when it comes to custom designs, I do offer custom designs in my Etsy shop. Now, some things are very easy to personalize, meaning it's something with a name and they just give you the name and you put it in and that's all there is to it. Those things can be very easy to personalize, or they give you a photo that you want to put on something and you put their photo on it. Some of those things are super easy to customize, but other things, when they want just a totally custom design or a totally custom thing, can be very frustrating. And people can be very indecisive, or they don't quite know what they want. And next thing you know, you're making 10,000 versions for them to choose from, and you're spending all of this extra time. And now it's no longer, worth it if you've just spent, 2 hours making versions for them and your profit is only like $10. You're just like, well, 2 hours, $10, that wasn't worth it, right? Especially if they're expecting the product at whatever cost that you have it at, and there's no extra cost for, customized stuff. And again, I just dealt with this, again, the hard way. And sometimes the best way we learn is the hard way. I had a person who wanted skateboard wall art, which, as we all know, no longer exists on PrintKK. So I guess this issue's gone. But this person wanted skateboard wall art and they messaged me about a custom thing, but they didn't quite know what they wanted, and they wanted me to come up with the pictures for it. And they're telling me that they want something for their kids' room. They want it to be somewhat like beach related, or like surf related, or skater related, and it had to be in sort of natural tones, sort of muted colors. And I did do a video showing how I designed for this, and so that is one of the recent skateboard videos that I have up that is now really no longer relevant, at least in terms of skateboards. But so this person didn't really have a clear, defined idea of what they wanted. And I ended up making so many versions for this person before they, decided on one. I mean, I made ones with skateboard themes. I made ones that were like more beachy themes with just waves and palm trees. I made ones that were, surfing. I made ones that were surfing with people, and ones that were surfing with just like surfboards. Like, do you want a person on it? Do you not want a person on it? Do you want it to be skateboard? Do you want it to be surf? Do you want it to be all three? Do you want it to just be like waves and palm trees? Like, they didn't know exactly what they wanted, and I'm just making version after version after version. And I'm having to show them mock-ups too. So I'm making all of these, I'm finding the pictures, I'm editing the pictures to mute the colors, I'm making the mock-ups and sending them to this person, and they keep looking at it. Oh, well, maybe this. Oh, well, maybe this. Oh, well, let me check with my daughter. Oh, can we mute these colors more? Um, you know, it, it went on, and I did this over the course of like a week or two with this person. And I probably spent hours working on this just to sell the wall art for what I would have sold it for if they had just bought the already made one. So I didn't even charge any extra for the customization, because I hadn't said up front, what the extra charge was going to be. And obviously, I didn't know that it was going to take this long. I thought, oh, okay, sure, I'll make you a custom one. If you tell me what you want, I'll put it up there. I obviously didn't anticipate it was going to be, 50 versions later. But these are the kinds of things you have to think about. If you offer custom stuff, you might have to have policies up front that say, okay, I'll give you 3 choices. And it's going to be an extra like $5 charge or $10 charge or something. You need to have some sort of policy in place ahead of time if you're going to do custom work like this, or charge by the hour. Like, okay, but if I spend an hour working on this, it's going to be an extra $20 or something. So you might have to think about that if you offer custom stuff. I don't usually get a lot of just totally custom stuff. I mean, I'll get stuff like, oh, can we change the color, or can we change the font? But if you're doing like totally custom work off the bat, which I hadn't intended on, but somebody asked, so just, think about that. So I do have some examples, by the way, I was going to show you. So these are some of the examples of the different skateboard wall art that I'm talking about. This one on the left here, this is the one they ended up going with. But over here, you've got a whole bunch of different versions. And this isn't all of them, but these are ones that I showed, including people, including, skateboards, including surfers, and in different orders and different combinations, because the way this works is you have 3 different pictures. And so I've got a zillion pictures to choose from. Which 3 do you want? Which combination do you want? I had to alter the colors and everything on all of these to kind of drop the saturation, drop the contrast. So all of these were heavily edited. So you can see how you can just find yourself doing a ton of work. So I kind of caution you if you want to get into more custom stuff. Okay. Next, I want to talk about returns. And returns kind of ties into reviews, which is what I'm going to do last, because I'm going to give you a story of, how to deal with those kind of reviews that are frustrating. But returns, those are another thing that you will deal with. Some platforms automatically authorize returns. So like if you sell on Amazon, returns are automatically authorized. You can't do anything about it. If you sell through Seller Central, you will probably end up eating the money for that. If you sell on Amazon merch, they handle all of the returns. You just don't get the profit. So it's less stressful that way. If you sell on Etsy, you can offer returns or say no returns, or returns only within 30 days. So you cannot create your own policy. And so you might have different return policies for different platforms. One of the things, and by the way, I think I've done a video on this too that pissed me off, sorry, about Amazon and their automatic return policy is people will do what is called rent a shirt. So when it comes to like holidays or specific occasions, you can buy a shirt, let's say for Christmas, wear it to the Christmas party, and then return it afterwards. And Amazon makes it so easy to do that that there are a lot of people that take advantage of this and will exactly do just that. And you will find that around the holidays, you will sell a lot of holiday shirts. And then after the holidays, you will get all of the returns of the holiday shirts. And it is kind of infuriating. And so that is one of the things that really bugs me on Amazon, because they do make the returns so easy that people do take advantage, unfortunately. Other things that you will deal with returns is people who order the wrong size. Now, it's one thing if they order the wrong size shirt, it didn't fit right. You will get a lot of returns on clothing. But I had somebody who wanted to return a phone case because they ordered the wrong size phone case. And I had a no return policy. And so they essentially wanted me to take back the phone case because they ordered the wrong one, and I would be out that money because of a mistake that they made. And so in that case, I stood by my policy and I said, I'm sorry, I have a no return policy. It was, clearly their fault. They ordered I don't know, was it like a 12 Pro and or 12 and they needed a 12 Pro or something. I'm like, in that case, that is their fault, but people will want to be able to return anything, even if they order the wrong thing. And then if you have a policy where you allow it, you can find yourself out of money that way too. And so this is another thing where I say people don't always pay attention when they order things. I've had people order things not paying attention to the shipping times. They expected to get it by a certain date, even though the shipping time was clearly on there that they wouldn't get it by that date, and then they wanted to return it. Or recently, the most recent one was a materials thing where a top was made out of a certain material. They thought it was made out of a different material, so they were unhappy with it, even though had they actually read the description, it was very clear exactly what it was made out of. So people don't always pay attention when they buy things, and when they, don't get what they expected, they want to return it, or they want to give a bad review, or, they just don't want to take responsibility if they made a mistake. And so some of those things can be very irritating. And this is what's going to bring me into the biggest section here, which is the dealing with negative reviews section. And it specifically has to deal with one of these issues. So, reviews. Reviews matter big time, especially on Etsy. If you are a new shop, especially, you need a lot of reviews because that's what makes people trust your shop. If you're selling something and somebody else is selling something and the person says, "Ooh, I like both of these, but I'm going to go with the one that has the higher reviews or has more reviews because I trust it more," right? You get the social proof. So if you don't have any reviews, or if you don't have good reviews, they're less likely to buy from you just because they can't necessarily trust that they're going to get a good product. So reviews matter huge. Not only that, but Etsy, as part of their Star Seller program, takes reviews into consideration. It's one of the 3 metrics that they look at. Is, do you offer, are you quick with your customer responses? Do you answer your messages within 24 hours? Are your shipments on time? And then do you have good reviews? And those are the things that they look at. And with Etsy, it's like they want them all to be 5-star reviews. In fact, I think their policy is you can't have more than 3 3-star reviews or less. So like they are really heavy on reviews, and because you want to maintain your star seller status, because if you aren't a star seller, they don't even promote your stuff as much, not to mention the fact that obviously customers are going to look for that star seller status. Reviews just, they matter a lot, and sometimes you will get unfair reviews or just reviews that make you angry or all sorts of stuff. And it's like, well, what can we do about this? And I'm going to give you guys an example here in a second. But first, let me say reviews can be bad if customers are mad at clearly stated policies. So for example, I got a bad review from the person who bought the wrong size phone case because I wouldn't let them return the phone case. There was nothing wrong with the phone case. It was good quality. I sent out exactly what they ordered. They ordered the wrong thing. The policy was clearly stated, but they were mad, so they gave me a bad review. Those are the kinds of things that can happen. So if they order something wrong, for example, or they have unrealistic expectations. You know, maybe they don't actually read the product description. They think in their head they're ordering, you know, something, and then what they get is different than what they expected. And so they give you a negative review, and you're just like, you get frustrated because you know, if they read the description, it clearly states what it is that you're selling. And sometimes you'll get conflicting reviews, and these can both be infuriating and confusing. And so I'm going to get into the specifics right here. Okay, so I talked about the recent issue I had with the button-up shirts, and you know, specifically the issues with the buttons, but I also had a customer who was upset about the material. So this is an example of conflicting reviews. So these are all the same product. These are all the same button-up shirt. So I have an example of 2 of the 5 stars. First one says, I love this shirt. I've gotten so many compliments. I'm tempted to wear it off season because of how cool it is. This is one of the Halloween designs. This was from like last year. Another one said, loved the shirt. It will look great on my son, exclamation point, exclamation point. So obviously these people are happy with this product. They think it's good quality and they have no issues with it. Then there's this 1-star review. I kid you not, a 1-star review. And this is the only 1-star review I've ever gotten. And I'm going to show you how I got that 1-star review to turn into a 5-star review. But person writes, item was cheap, as you would find on Temu. I'm not impressed with the quality at all. I would have paid more for a real bowling shirt if need be. The one I received was more like a Halloween costume shirt. So that's rough. There's not really any specifics on what's wrong with it, other than they expected it to be better quality. They, you know, the material wasn't what they were essentially expecting, so they gave it a 1-star review. So how did I deal with this, right? I'm going to show you the message that I sent, and I'm going to tell you what the outcome ended up being, because this just got resolved like a day or 2 ago. So this is totally fresh. So here we go. So here is the message that I sent to the person and how you would deal with something like this. I put, hello, I'm sorry to hear you're not happy with your order. I'd be happy to give you a refund. The shirt is meant to be a lightweight polyester. I wish you had messaged me about your order prior to writing the review. I want all of my customers to be happy with their orders. So I sent that top part, and then I gave them a full refund. So after I totally gave them the refund, they have it. Then I wrote, your order should be refunded now. I do want to ask if you would be so kind as to update your review to encompass the customer service. As a small shop, a negative review can cause severe harm to my little business. Either way, I apologize for the shirt not meeting your expectations. Have a wonderful day, Kelly Therapy Designs. Anyways, the person responded. They thought the shirt was going to be made out of cotton. They obviously were looking for a higher quality material. I very nicely told them that it was 100% polyester, and that it did say that in the detailed section of, you know, the listing, that they didn't bother to look at the listing details where it was very clear that it was 100% polyester and that it was a lightweight polyester. So it wasn't what they expected, but at the same time, they didn't read obviously the product description. And again, I have 5-star reviews of people who did like the shirt, and it just comes down to what they were expecting. So the people who liked the shirt got the exact same shirt as the person who wrote the 1-star review, right? It just came down to what their expectations were, and the person who wrote the 1-star review was expecting a different material. Now, to be fair, I sell this shirt for $25 with free shipping. That is about the cheapest that you will find a button-up shirt or button-down shirt. If it was going to be a high-quality shirt, you're looking at more of like a $60 shirt. So the price, by the way, should have been an indication of, well, you get what you pay for. Obviously, it's not going to be one of those very, very expensive, nice, thick cotton shirts if you're getting it for $25 with free shipping. So that should have been kind of an indication there anyways. But anyways, the guy felt bad that I had refunded his money already, that he not only changed his review to a 5-star review, admitted that it was his fault for not reading the description of the product, but then ordered another one of those shirts from me because he felt bad that I had given him a refund and he wanted me to get the money back. So that one message right there completely solved the problem. Had I not sent it, I would have had an angry customer and a 1-star review. And so I'm going to break down the message a little bit so that you really understand the concepts and what you really want to put in here. So the first thing you need to do is you need to be polite. If you start off by attacking them or telling them that they didn't read the product review, they're going to be mad and they're going to shut you down. So it's always, you have to go through with the best customer service. And initially give them a refund, which is what I did. So there was no quid pro quo. There is no change the review and I'll give you a refund or something like that. No, give them the refund 100% first before they even, talk to you or respond to your message. Just say, I'm sorry you're not happy with your product, and give them the refund. Okay, that is going to put them in a much better mood and make them much more likely to consider changing their review. Okay. I did go ahead and mention that the shirt was meant to be a lightweight polyester so that they, knew that maybe their expectations weren't quite right. The other thing I did was, in the wording when I asked them to change their review, I didn't say, can you change your review? I didn't use the word change at all, by the way. I used the word update. Could you update your review? So I don't want them to get the idea that I'm just saying, oh, go change your review. No, I said, can you update the review to encompass the customer service? So I'm not saying you have to say that the shirt is good or that you liked it or that the quality was good if it wasn't, but maybe they could include that I give good customer service as I quickly responded and gave them a refund. Okay. So very specific in the wording of, ask them if they would be so kind as to update the review to encompass the customer service. So that's important. And then explain why so that they understand. As a small shop, a negative review can cause severe harm to my little business. Make it personal. Let them know that you are a small business. People typically don't care if they screw over a big corporation. They tend to be a little bit more caring if they see you as a small business or as an individual person or an individual seller. So by just adding that in there and letting them know that a negative review can really cause your, harm to your little business, again, they're more likely to comply. Next, make it seem as though you're not requiring this. Again, it can't be a quid pro quo. So I put either way. So whether you do or you don't, either way, I apologize for the shirt not meeting your expectations. Right. And I put, have a wonderful day. And then I signed it with my name and Therapy Design. So I didn't just put Therapy Designs, I put my name. So again, they could see it as an individual person. So after reading this again, the guy changed the review from a 1-star review to a 5-star review and bought another item from my shop. So just handling customer service the right way can really make a difference. If you don't handle it the right way, you're going to have 1-star reviews, even sometimes when it's not your fault. It's going to happen. There's going to be people who are just unhappy with the order. And he must have been really unhappy, because I've had people who have had messed up things happen and not given a 1-star review. The person who got the button-up shirt where the buttons wouldn't fit through the hole, and that was a real issue, gave a 3-star review. The buttons wouldn't even fit through the hole, and they still gave me a 3-star review. This person, there was nothing wrong with the shirt at all, and they gave a 1-star review. So again, it just depends on kind of what mood they're in and everything else. By the way, I got the 3-star review marked up too by using a very similar message and giving them a refund. Of course, this was an actual issue. I asked them to send me a picture of the button so that I could send it to the manufacturer, apologize that occasionally there are quality control issues, and that I do my best to try to, mitigate them or deal with them. So very similar kind of response. And again, I did get them to also change their review, and I did give them a refund. So there are just ways that you can deal with that. So anyways, this pretty much encompasses everything I wanted to say about sort of the dark side of print on demand. Just the idea that it doesn't always go smoothly. And that's not to say that print on demand isn't great. It is. All the good things about it are still very true, but I don't want people to believe that it is just a walk in the park and that you don't ever have any issues, because you do. You will have issues popping up, lots of different issues, and they will constantly happen, and you will constantly be having to deal with them. And the more they happen, the better you get at dealing with them, right? And sometimes even things that seem absolutely horrible, like a 1-star review, you can, find a way to move past that. If you have any questions about any of this, drop it in the comment section below. I try to get back to everybody as quickly as I can. Again, I hope you guys are doing really well. I hope you're continuing to grow your skills, grow your portfolio. I hope you're making some good sales. If you're new to print on demand, I do again have a print on demand beginners master course that I sell on Etsy for like 20 bucks, because I want anybody who actually wants to learn to be able to afford to learn and not have to take one of those many $1,000 courses. And because you guys were so patient and you did wait until the end of this very long video, I do have another 5 bonus niches for you. So without any more waiting, these are your 5 bonus niches. And I do have some more Christmas niches for you. So number 1, I'm not an elf, I'm just short. Number 2, tech support. I'm here to delete your cookies, right, with the holiday cookies. Number 3, I thought was funny, and this is more of a visual. It says cats for everyone, and it was Santa in his sleigh throwing out cats as gifts. So it was funny. Number 4, I put out for Santa, and it's put out, milk and cookies. And number 5, Big Nick energy. It's always another funny one. Remember, funny does sell, but there are just tons and tons and tons of funny Christmas niches out there. So I hope you guys can find some fun ways to design for this. And again, I hope to see you guys later. That's all for today's video. If you found that useful and would like to see more videos with helpful tips and tricks, be sure to hit like and subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss any of the weekly videos. As always, keep growing and stay creative, and we'll see you next time.